How's everybody doing today? All right, my name is Gary. I'm going to kind of be your entertainer type person today until we find some dolphins. How many of you are native to the Savannah area?
Well, not native. We live here.
How many of you live here now? Couple people been living here. All right, so one of the first things you probably notice when you move to the area is all the wacky marsh grass that we have and these big old tides that go up and down every single day. On the east coast of America, we have one of the larger tide ranges, averaging between 6 and 8 feet on any given day. Compared to most of the other parts of the country, how many of you been down in Florida very much? All right, Florida, Jacksonville, about 3 foot of tide. South of there, down into the Keys, about 6 inches of tide. So, I mean, the tides are so gradual that you don't even see them part of the time. So, you know, short of some place like the Bay of Fundy, which has over a 40-foot tide on an average, we have probably one of the larger tide ranges around on the East Coast. What that does is it creates a very unique set of micro ecosystems in this region. We have about 500,000 acres of saltwater marsh. And make no mistake that the water we're in is entirely salt water, the same as the ocean. Average of about 2.8 to roughly 3% of salt in the water by volume, or about 28 to 30 parts per thousand. Now, before I get ahead of myself, I guess really all good stories should kind of start at the beginning, right? So we're going to start the story, we'll rewind, go back to the beginning, and in the beginning, it was dark. And it stayed dark for an indeterminable amount of time. Possibly seconds, possibly eons, we don't know because it was dark, right? Then eventually, boom. Now we fast forward about multi-billions of years and we come into about the time of the last ice age. We're living in a period of time right now that's called the Holocene. And the Holocene period of time is anything from about the last 60,000 odd years forward till today. And several things that have gone on throughout the last 60,000 years is one of the big things was this thing called the Ice Age. How many of you remember the Ice Age? Anybody? There's days I feel like I remember the Ice Age quite well. And you know, that's back when we rode dinosaurs to school and all that sort of thing. But the neat thing about the Ice Age, everybody talks about global warming. Global warming has been a thing that has gone on throughout time. The ocean's level during the Ice Age was several hundred feet lower than it is today. During that same period of time, there was a land bridge up in the Bering Sea called the Bering Sea Land Bridge. They think this is how North American Native Americans, the Indians, came from out of Eurasia, crossed this boundary of land that was above sea level, came in, migrated back and forth, animals migrated back and forth, mastodons, camels, three-toed horses, saber-toothed tigers, and all manners of other beasties. Well, eventually the global warming started. All the creatures freaked out, they all ran to different parts of the planet, and the ocean's levels rose and the land bridge went away. Now, what animals were left in, or what animals were left here eventually died out. The mammoth, we have plenty of fossils of mammoth and saber-toothed tigers and what have you. But what that did was it totally isolated the North American, South American continent at that point. And water continued to rise, and eventually these areas here, back in the, during that period of time before the water rose, of course, this was all just soil, it's sediment. This was all part of a big inland sea at one time. This goes back about 60 million years to the Pliocene era. And during that time, like I say, all the waters in this shallow coast, all the sediment and stuff that was coming out from the high country all settled here. Then as the marsh came in, that's what created the soils, the waters rose, eventually created the saltwater marshes that you see today.